Hey guys, welcome to the 2020 Nissan GTR. We actually had this big video planned, or we actually did the video down at towards the snowy mountains. We had drone footage, we even crashed the drone into a tree. We had a lot of external shots as well, going around the corners and so on. But unfortunately, all of the driving footage inside the car, the SD card that was in this camera on my head now, brand new SD card, ended up being corrupt. So we couldn't retrieve any of the driving footage. It's a shame I can't use all the footage from down there because there were some really nice driving roads, but we did get some good photos. So in the written review coming up on the website soon, you'll see some pretty cool photos. And we got a chance to test it on some nice roads too. But anyway, I'll try and do it all again and remember what I said the original time. I might even be able to add some extra bits now that I've driven it for another day. It does have to go back this afternoon, so if I come across as I'm a bit rushed, that's why I'm getting a bit anxious about sending it back. So this is the 50th anniversary edition, as you can see on the back there. I'm not actually a fan of this sticker. It looks like something that a dealer would put on. It's got the actual badge there, 50th anniversary. I just think that sticker I don't know, it doesn't quite sit right with me. But regardless of that, this is designed to help celebrate the 50th year of the GTR nameplate. So it's quite a legendary model. It doesn't matter if you're a massive car fan or if you just, you know a bit about cars, you'll probably know the GTR badge. It's basically Nissan's, or even Japan's, idea of a supercar. This is probably the most iconic and fastest, highest performance car that they produce. Well, one of them anyway. You've also got the Honda NSX, but this is not, I don't know, I sometimes categorize it as a supercar, just in terms of the specifications and the performance, but then it does have 4 seats. It's not mid-engined or anything like that, like a exotic Italian supercar. So in that sense, it's more of a super sports car slash Grand Tourer. Nissan made some significant updates with the 2020 model, the model year 2020, and it is the biggest change since the 2017 update. You might remember our POV video from 2017 down at the Great Ocean Road. So Nissan has once again evolved the car further again. The R35 first came out in 2007 and it looks pretty much similar to that 2007 model. Big differences are the front end, Nissan's V-Motion grille there. That was brought in around 2017 or 2016 maybe even. But for 2020, there's not much has changed in terms of the major panel designs and things like that. The 50th anniversary edition does bring in some obvious changes though. So this has got the racing stripes over the top, and this is featured in a new blue color called Bayside Blue. It's actually inspired by One Gun Blue of the previous generation R34 GTR. That was a pretty iconic color for the R34, so it's good to see Nissan has revamped it for the R35. There's also some new alloy wheels. These are 20-inch alloy wheels, and if you look closely, you'll actually see every second or third spoke has got this little blue detailing on it, which is pretty cool. In terms of hardware changes, there's some new brakes, and I've tested them quite a bit, and they are very good. They seem to withstand heated pressure longer than the previous model's brakes. They're still by Brembo, 6 pistons at the front, gold calipers, cross-drilled, all of the fancy stuff that you want with a high-performance car. They've changed the disc metal in the actual disc, the metal, so it can resist heat a bit better. The pedal also feels quite nice as well. Also updated is the suspension system, and also the R mode, driving mode, has been revised. Nissan says there's more aggressive downshifts available. Even during ABS activation, it'll change down a bit nicer, a bit quicker, and it helps to reduce understeer, so Nissan says. The engine is still the same, 3.8 litre twin turbo V6, 419 kilowatts and 632 Newton meters of torque. And that's sent through a 6-speed dual clutch automatic transmission with, of course, 4-wheel drive. New for 2020 is a full titanium exhaust system, or sorry, I'm not sure if it's full all the way to the turbos, but it's got these sort of singed blue tips at the end, which look really cool. And it does give it a bit more of a beefy soundtrack. I'll show you that in a minute when we get into the driver's seat. It's also got new turbochargers as well. Nissan says the seals or something, I haven't dug around into it that much detail, but the seals for the turbocharger are new to give it better response low down, and Nissan says it feels better in the corners as well. So you're coming to a corner, you've got the power there earlier than you did in the previous model. Let's take a look at the interior. It's got these funny little door handles, which, I don't know, you kind of need a big hand to use them. But yeah, something different. I like things that are a little bit different with cars like this. You don't want anything, well, as minimal things as possible that are shared with regular run-of-the-mill models. For the 50th anniversary edition, you get this twilight grey interior, full leather, contrast stitching, or kind of contrast stitching. It's sort of light grey. And it extends all the way over the dash and door trims as well. Just looking at it from here, it doesn't scream out that it's a supercar. It's not exotic, in my opinion. It's not exotic enough, although you do see sort of carbon fiber style trimmings just there. Even so, it does look kind of like a Nissan sports car. It doesn't, you know, scream that it's worth $200,000. It feels pretty conventional inside as well. Like all the switchgear and everything, it's very familiar. I mean, it's, well, not all Nissans are featured like this, and they certainly don't have the race mode buttons down there. But it is very user-friendly, so everything is typical mainstream production car sort of user-friendliness. Square buttons and so on, typical knobs. It all feels quite nice. I like the buttons. They don't feel cheap or anything like that. It just doesn't immediately scream about that it's a high-end super sports car, or whatever we want to call it. Supercar, super sports car, grand touring car, whatever you want to call it. A $200,000 car. We'll start it up, but I just want to give you a warning that the screen flashes. I'm not a tech guy by any means, so if anyone can explain it in the comments, please do so. But I think it's got something to do with this is a low resolution screen. It might be a SVGA or something like that. I don't know. Again, please comment if I'm incorrect, or even just clarify for us all. But it does flash with the camera. So I'll give you a quick demonstration of the touchscreen, and then we'll turn it off so it doesn't send you crazy. Just listen when we start it up. It definitely has some sort of theatre about it. So I think the flywheel there is rattling a bit, maybe even the transmission. Remembering that this does have a transaxle, so the transmission is actually at the back of the car, sort of connected to the differential, the rear differential, and then it's got another drive shaft that sends power to the front wheels. So it's actually got two drive shafts running down the middle there. I'll just turn the aircon off, even though it is a pretty hot day. But as you can see, yeah, that's flashing and quite annoying to you, but I'll just give you a quick run through. This is Nissan's latest touchscreen system. It's not too bad, it's definitely improved over the years. I like the little menu buttons across the bottom there. They're pretty sort of familiar with touchscreens these days. And I do like the jump to buttons on the outside, so you can quickly jump to the audio, jump to the sat nav and whatever. And it's also got the readout screens for all sorts of different driving information, acceleration, G meters and stuff like that. All your oil temps and engine temps and torque split front to rear. It's all pretty cool. Boost pressure as well there. I do like all that sort of gadgety stuff, but again, I'll try and sort of stay away from that because it's probably driving you nuts. Perhaps the most iconic area of the GTR's interior are these three driving mode toggles. So you've got one for the stability control, which you can turn off completely or put it into a race mode. You've also got a suspension race mode, as well as a comfort mode. I'll talk to you a bit about the suspension when we start going for a drive. They've made some improvements to the comfort especially. It's actually quite a comfortable car to drive for a super sports car. And then you've got the race mode for the powertrain as well. I'm not sure what the save button does. Maybe you can set up a configuration and hit save there. I don't know. Clarify in the comments if you want to. And then down on the center console, right next to the 50th anniversary badge, is the hand control for the touchscreen. So that's cool that they've got that down there. It's not quite as good as Mazda's system or BMW's system in my opinion, but it does help. You don't have to reach up to the screen, although the screen is right there. It's not one of those screens you've got to reach for. This is a 4-seat car, as I mentioned, so we'll jump into the back and see if it really is a 4-seat car. I might just turn it off so we can get rid of that screen. We'll go around to the other side. I've got my bag on the rear seat there. There is a little lever here to help you getting into the back, but it doesn't actually slide forward. Not sure if you're, I don't know, familiar with coupes, but you can normally hit that and the whole thing will slide forward. I suppose that's because it's got an electric adjustment there. So you do have to sit here for a little bit while we roll it forward. As you can see already, there's not too much room for me to get in, but we'll give it a go anyway. Oops. Yeah, so my head's hitting the ceiling there, and don't forget that I've got that seat forward. You could get someone in the front, and you could probably come back a little bit. There is room for my feet underneath the seat, if that's any sort of consolation. But yeah, it's not really a 4-seat car for adults. I think a big part of the problem is the leg rest here is actually too long. If they just cut it short, like, you know, cut a couple of inches off there, it'll actually help out, because you could get your legs back further and have a bit more freedom to move about. But yeah, it goes right up. I'm not sure why they've done that. It's definitely not a 4-seat car, but you can get away with using it as a 4-seater temporarily, or, you know, for short trips. I like that they've got a, you know, ambitiously, they've got this cup holder here, like someone's going to sit here and relax. But yeah, I'm about 170 centimeters, and I've got my head crouched down a bit as we speak. In fact, I hope that's not, you're not just facing the ceiling there. I can't actually see the camera. It's slightly above my eyesight, obviously. But yeah, I mean, yeah, the seat cushion is pretty comfortable, I'll give it that. And it is reclined slightly too. So you do get a little bit of headroom. But today that sun is beaming down right on me too, which is quite uncomfortable. It does have 2 speakers in the back there, which is pretty cool. It's kind of like, you know, Need for Speed underground style setup. Not sure if they're subwoofers, but it does sound pretty good. It's a Bose system, produces, yeah, nice decent sound. I have had the baby seat in the back here, and for that purpose I think it's okay, because a baby, you know, a toddler doesn't have to hang his legs over too far. The baby seat probably ends about there, so they've got room to put their legs. And my little boy didn't have any complaints about sitting in the back here, so in that sense it's more useful than a traditional supercar. Also helping with the practicality is the boot, so we'll go and check that out. Definitely a decent sized boot there. Goes right over to the sides. Yeah, that's plenty good enough for a even for a daily piece of transport. You could use that for your shopping. You might even be able to get some golf clubs in there. Definitely some suitcases and so on. Enough chit chat though, let's go for a drive and see how this beast goes. What are we dealing with here? It's a 3.8 litre twin turbo V6, as I mentioned. And 3.8 litres for a V6 is quite large as it is. So it should be pretty powerful and, you know, provide lots of torque. But then it's got those 2 turbochargers, pretty big turbochargers, really pushing in the pressure to help it breathe. There is still a little bit of turbo lag. I'll just show you that. So I'm in normal mode for everything in terms of the driving modes. I'm in automatic. There is a little A next to that 6. I'm not sure if you can see it. But it is nice that they do have a permanent gear selection screen up there, which is nice. Some cars, they've got a tiny little thing down here, and you've got to actually look for it, because when you're doing some sporty driving, sometimes you don't know what gear you're in. So I do like that it's up there. It's just it might be a low resolution screen like the touch screen. I've managed to turn that completely off, so hopefully there's no flashing going on there, although the little clock is still up the top. But yeah, so we're cruising along. I'll just slow down a little bit, and I'll give it about half throttle. So this is half throttle. It takes a little bit to change down gears, and then the turbos spool up, well, I wouldn't say slowly, but slower than they do in some of the more modern cars. This engine has been around since 2007. They have revised it and evolved it over the years, but it still is quite an old school engine. I do like the old school nature of the car, actually, like all the clunks and things from the transmission. It makes you feel like you're in a racing car, and it does give it some character too. What you probably want to know is what is the 0 to 100 time. So this is one of the quickest production cars you can buy in Australia still. Nissan made a big deal about it, back when it was launched with a time of 2.7 seconds. I haven't been able to achieve that in any of our tests, but it does get quite close. I'll just pull over here because there's a nice straight bit and there's a car behind me. We are on public roads, but it is a 100 km/h speed limit. So we can give it a quick run. This won't be our official run. We've already done the videos and everything on our usual private road for our best timing, but I can give you a demonstration of its real world 0 to 100. It is quite a warm day, 26 degrees it's saying. Oh, by the way, you'll have to excuse my microphone there. I've got it taped up there. It's just a backup mic to get the sound in case this GoPro doesn't do its job. But yeah, it's 26 degrees. It actually feels quite a bit warmer than that. The sun's got a lot of heat today. And we are in the middle of the day, 1:30 right in the middle of the day. So it's not the best conditions. And this road is pretty much flat. If anything, it's downhill a little bit, then it sort of rises up a bit. But it is a pretty good surface by the looks of it. And I've got the VBox all clipped up, ready to go. This is the official VBox app. You need an iPhone or an Apple product for the app. They don't make them for Android, which is quite annoying for me because I'm an Android user. But anyway, that's all programmed in. I've already done some runs, as I said, at our usual spot. But we can give it a run today. See what it does. To activate the launch control, you just have to have the powertrain in race and the stability control in race. It doesn't matter what suspension mode you've got it in. I've tried it in all three. It doesn't really make any fundamental difference to the time, but I'll just leave it in comfort mode for this run. So we hit go, both hands on the wheel, hard on the brake, and then hard on the accelerator. Phone's gone flying. That's easily 100. So I'll pull over and we'll have a look at the time. As you probably saw, the G-force off the mark is just incredible. You won't find very many cars on the market at the moment that just get off the line that quickly, that savagely, because of the smart all-wheel drive system. So that's done 3.49 seconds in quite warm conditions, as I said. 3.49 is definitely not slow, but yeah, I've never been able to get 2.7 like what Nissan says. Maybe they do their testing on perfect conditions, on a perfect drag strip, in really cold, you know, near sea level or something. I don't know, but I haven't been able to get 2.7, but 3.49 in the real world is quite a, well, it is very impressive time. Anyway, let's go and see how it handles in the mountains. We'll go for a nice mountain road drive, and yeah, we'll put it to the test. I'll try out the different suspension modes and so on as we go. Oh, by the way, I did turn the air conditioning off for that run, so you can probably look back at the footage. The air conditioning was actually off, which does take a little bit of horsepower, I suppose, maybe 3 or 4 horsepower or 2 or 3 kilowatts or something, depending on the size of the air conditioning unit. It is a big shame that we can't retrieve the video footage from down in the snowy mountains, because the roads were beautiful and they were completely deserted too. Being almost summertime in Australia, the snowy mountains are quite a driver's wonderland, really, because they're just beautiful mountain roads and nobody around. There's going to be a bit of traffic through here today, but still I should be able to give you a bit of a demonstration of this beast's performance. And it is a beast. It's a Godzilla after all. It's not a finely tuned or fine, really sharp, precise machine. It's a beast. It's got enormous thrusting power, and it feels very imposing to drive. There is a bit of theatre to it as well. I'm not a massive fan of the engine sound, but the new titanium exhaust system does sound a bit better than the previous model, especially at the tailpipe. There's sort of little pops and things when you change up gears, and even a few little pops and so on the overrun. But inside, I'm not sure if this has got artificial sound coming through the speakers. I think it does. The previous model did, but it seems to be drowned out a bit with this new exhaust system. So you can't, it's not as obvious. It's definitely an improvement. Either way you look at it, it's an improvement in engine sound and thus the overall excitement of the car, I guess, the driving experience. I don't know if it does open up the exhaust in race mode, but that's when the sound might come through the speakers more predominantly. But we'll put it in race mode now. Doing so doesn't actually activate the manual mode for the transmission. I've just got it in race mode there and it's still saying automatic. I'm not sure if you can see the little A there, but anyway, you can put it into manual mode by simply tapping the selector across. And it is a full manual mode transmission. You do have to change down gears. Not sure if you just heard then that it'll pop from the exhaust as I change down. But yeah, it's full manual, it won't change up by itself. Third gear. Another couple of pops down into third gear there. I'll give it the beans around this corner, or once we get around the corner. Picks up speed really, really quickly. It's lucky that it's got awesome brakes, and they are a lot better than the previous model's brakes. I've done a few runs and down at the Snowy Mountains, as I said, repeated abuse, and they hold up really, really well. Yeah, crazy speed. It just picks up speed so relentlessly. It's even in a world of more modern supercars and super sports cars, the GTR always excites you and always surprises you with its G-force. It does sound a bit like a jet as well. It's got that as it sort of takes off, and that's its own theatre, its own excitement in itself. It does still sound a little bit like a vacuum cleaner, if I'm brutally honest. It kind of feels like I'm hoovering up all the crumbs and things on the road. But it depends which way you look at it. If you want to look at it negatively, you can hear that sort of vacuum cleaner style of humming sound. But if you're more of a car fan, you might remember the classic Skyline sound. You can hear elements of that as well, especially with the new titanium exhaust system. But yeah, around corners, as I said, that steering is very sharp, very responsive. You only need to touch it to make adjustments. I know I was just saying it's not a delicate little precise machine. The steering is. It's definitely very precise. Nissan says it has tried to make the steering setup a bit more relaxed, so you don't have to make fine adjustments as you're going along the straight. But it is still quite touchy in my opinion. Good gearbox, always like the gearbox, changes down and up gears really quickly. And as I said, it now pops between upshifts. I'll try and give you a demonstration of that. This thing's so quick though, and it's just, you've got to slow right down before you can accelerate again. Probably didn't hear that, but I'll put the GoPro on the outside and you can have a good listen. Mountain roads like this or winding roads like this are absolutely no problem for a car, for the GTR. It loves, long sweeping bends and fast, straights with little kinks and so on. It just eats them up so effortlessly. It doesn't care at all. In fact, if you got unstuck in one of these or even went off the road or something, I don't know, you'd have to be doing something pretty stupid for it to do that, because it just goes exactly where you want it to go. It doesn't matter how fast you're going either. Like, you can just jump on the brakes, slow right down, very controlled, very stable at all times. In fact, I remember the 2017 model. I came around a corner with it in race mode for the stability control, so not all the way off, and I applied some throttle. It was just a nice sort of second gear bend, and it actually kicked right out. Like, I wouldn't say right out, but it definitely needed opposite lock to adjust it as I powered out of the corner. I've tried the same sort of setup or the same sort of driving scenario with this new model and it doesn't do that in that scenario anyway. I'm sure you can throw it in if you're on a racetrack or something like that, but it used to. I just remember this one particular time I came around and just beautifully just sailed out there and left the power down. You don't have to counter steer it too much because it's four-wheel drive, of course. It sort of just counter steers itself, and you bring it back and it just powers away from the corner. Whereas this, I haven't been able to replicate that exact sort of scenario with it. It understeers a little bit more, in my opinion, but that's with, you know, only on-road driving. So if you went to a track, you could probably really, you know, grab it by the scruff of the neck and throw it around even more. It's, yeah, definitely a performance, still a very credible performance machine by today's standards. There's a lot of faster cars that will probably go from point to point quicker than this, but this is definitely still holds a very credible position in today's lineup, in my opinion. It is a bit old school, as I mentioned, the clunks and so on from the transmission, but it doesn't seem to detract from the driving experience. If anything, it kind of enhances it because it makes you feel like you're driving a racing car. It's got a lot going on underneath the skin. And then above the skin, it's just a premium Nissan, which isn't such a bad thing. You can live with it every day. As I said, it's very practical. So you sort of get the best of both worlds. Give it a bit more through here. Yeah, it picks up speed so easily. It doesn't mind the tighter bends either. It hooks in really well, and you can put the power down early, and it just hooks up and pulls you around the corner. Huge G-force as well when you're going around the corners at speed or under power. It's got an Ateza four-wheel drive system which constantly figures out where to best send the power, front and rear wheels. And yeah, it's pretty much faultless. I can't really fault it. As I said just before, sorry, there is a little bit more understeer with my driving style anyway. It seems like they've dialed in more understeer. That's better for for the general public. Better to have understeer than oversteer. It's a bit safer. You can hear the turbochargers whistling away, especially on the outside with the new exhaust system. And it's also got these they're real bonnet vents. They don't feed air into a airbox, but they do actually feed air into the engine bay, I suppose, to cool it all down, provide some venting. But yeah, it does produce this nice turbo soundtrack as you're whistling up through the gears. There's a bit of a whine from the gearbox as well. I know it's not a straight cut gearbox, but it kind of sounds like that. It's got this like a racing car again. We'll give it a bit more of a push up these mountain roads. It's got reflectors on the roads that are really narrow. I don't know why. So if you hear me hitting the reflectors, I'm sorry about that. I'm not going over the lines. I try not to go over the lines as best I can, but the reflectors really stick out from the actual lines. Tight corner, apply plenty of power. Another tight corner. Yeah, it's really eats up the corners with no problem at all. It's a beast. I think the most fun part is sprinting between the corners, because you know it's got the brakes to pull up before the corners, you know it's got the traction to go around the corners at speed, but it's the endless power, endless surging power as you're going along the straights that is really exciting. It's definitely an insane machine. The verdict. I do love the GTR. Like, it's definitely got a place somewhere in my dream car garage. It's got that aura about it. It's got that it's got that legend about it too. It's a legendary model that's been around for decades. It hasn't just come to the scene thinking it's the best. It's been around. It's been doing this for a long time. I'm looking forward to the next generation, the R36, if it happens. I don't know much about it at this stage. Nissan hasn't said anything officially, but yeah, it's still a brilliant performance machine that deserves a place in today's market. I think this should be the last model year though. Being 50th anniversary, it's a nice way to send out the R35. In fact, that might be what it's about. I haven't read too much into it. If that's the case and you know, please let us know in the comments section. But yeah, if you were going to buy an R35, now's the time to buy one in my opinion. And I probably would go for the 50th anniversary edition. Even though, you know, I'm not a fan of the grey seats and the white stripe, I'd go for a different colour. But I think it would hold its value a bit better than the regular R35 line. We will be putting together a more in-depth written review on the website, and I'll include some of the pictures from down at the Snowy Mountains, and we'll do, of course, our usual 0 to 100 video for you. In the meantime, I've got to take this back to Nissan. I might just go for one more run just for an extra bit of evaluation for myself, and then yeah, head back to Nissan. Thanks for watching.